focus on the Kansans can, whatever you call those,
Vision.
all those focuses about kindergarten readiness and graduation rates and post-high school success and social emotional and one other, IPS.
IPS and civic engagement.
Oh, there's civic engagement too. And we aren't teaching as much to the Kansas test, the exam that puts us, that comes up with a number for our district. And so some of our legislators are holding the number against us when we're making all these giant moves on all these issues, which involve, and our strategic plan, which emphasizes understanding and curriculum and all this stuff. So I wondered if you have been discussing how to weigh the Kansas Standards test against all these other things that we were working on.
So the question is how to weigh the Kansas standardized test against all the other issues and metrics that they're working on.
So part of the Kansas Can Vision is the holistic look at a kid. If you remember No Child Left Behind, everything was driven off one thing, test score. We realize that that is not alone a definition of a successful student. I always go to, hey, when you get a job or when you get your first job, what's the question on the exam? Do you have a high school diploma? Yes. Does it say what'd you score in the Kansas State Math Assessment in 8th grade? No. And so when we look at success for a student, it's more than a test score. It's all that and. So we talk about academic preparations at the very top of that, and that's kind of how we measure that is by that test score. But it's looking holistically at the whole student, and that the student's not just defined by a test score. But it is a challenging task. It is. I know that.
For senators, oh, I'm sorry. I guess I'm thinking, yeah. Single most important issue, period, in terms of budget and budget resources.
The single most important issue in terms of budget and budget resources.
From where do you start?
We'll start with Ms. Cruz.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question, Gary. I have to admit, I don't know a whole lot about the budget or the budget resources. I do know that we have a tax revenue surplus now, and now have, $1 billion or something in the rainy day fund. So, if this is a question about taxes, I'm interested in tax equity. I'm interested in getting the balance right between government services that people want and the amount of taxes that they're willing to or inclined to pay for that. And I am particularly concerned about public education and making sure that we're funding public education well, and maybe increasing teachers' salaries if that's what it's going to take to keep quality teachers here in our schools that want to stay here.
Ms. Salina.
I also don't know much about budgeting or much on the taxes, but I always thought a way to help boost money into the state would be to legalize marijuana, which I always assumed would help provide more jobs, more income. Then there's a tax on it that would go back into the state and for school and funding the teachers, funding food. I just assumed if you open up more opportunities, then a lot more opportunities should obviously open up as well. So that's as far as I know, and like what I thought that was increasing budget was meaning let's, legalize something like marijuana. Let's start with that and see how that goes, because I think other states have done it and they've done amazing things with those profits.
Ms. Kincannon.
So I have the advantage of also 10 years of experience, plus I've served on the Appropriations Committee for 6 years. And when I came into the legislature, was right after the roundback tax cuts, that bill was just passed before I came in. So I lived through all of those cuts and how miserable that was. So priority for me, and has been for the last couple of years, is paying off that debt. We closed the bank at KDOT. We are paying off bonds, all the ones that we can, and all the ones that make sense because of interest reasons. The other thing is capers. We were skipping capers payments during that time, and we've stabilized. This year we were able to put $1 billion into capers, and we went from 49% funding up to 89%. And then we started the rainy day fund or stabilization fund just last year. So, yeah.
We do have time for one more question. There in the back.
I want to ask in the end here, as you grow and learn more and understand more and more about the effects of marijuana and the fact that it's a gateway drug that leads many people into more different, stronger drugs, and then that creates more of a problem in terms of addiction, which then is ultimately a taxpayer issue. I'm just astounded at when people want to use any kind of chemical like that to increase our funding, when from another standpoint, the psychological, emotional standpoint of possibility of people really getting.
Can we rephrase the question so that it applies to all the House candidates, please?
My concern is the whole thing of legalized marijuana and not understanding that in the big picture that can lead to a lot more problems for our citizens in terms of addiction. It's a gateway drug for sure into other drugs. So I guess I'm not sure even what my question is, except why would you want to use something like that to make more money when in the big picture it harms people. It very well could harm people.
So the question is in regards to potential fallout from legalizing marijuana. And we'll start with Ms. Molina.
For me, to say that it's this big picture, I think it's been blown out of this proportion, because I do remember it being drilled into me since elementary school here at Oakdale, that it's a big gateway, but it really wasn't to me. And I felt like this big picture that a lot of people have this image of legalizing it. You're gonna start doing heroin, you're gonna start stealing, you're gonna start doing, that didn't happen until it became, to me, people tried it and, well, because it's illegal, people are getting punished for it. You have the one about the 18-year-old who got caught with it, and the judge had destroyed his life completely, and he didn't even have a chance to really live out his life. I think legalizing it is better. We gotta destroy this old image that it destroys lives, when it really doesn't seem to be doing that to these other states. If they have it, I know it seems hard to jump in such a, to me, it seems like a common progressive idea to just be legal on it. Sorry, it's a lot more in depth to me to talk about. There's a lot to it, sorry.
All right, Ms. Concannon.
So we've had some votes. I have a voting record for legalizing marijuana. I have supported legalizing medical marijuana, and that passed the House and got stuck over in the Senate, and they didn't take it up. I would support that again. We've had hearings where we had children who that we know were able to be helped by it. They've gone to other states and purchased it, and they were actually having seizures right in front of us. So it was like, up to the minute that we got to see that. As far as legalizing it for recreational, I've never been in support of that, but I have watched what other states are doing. We don't need the revenue from that at this time, but I would like to wait and see. I'm hearing feedback from other states, and so I'd like to see what maybe the unintended consequences are. But right now, other states, when I go to national meetings, are saying it's going well.
Ms. Cruz.
Yeah, 38 states have already legalized marijuana at some level. And so many of those states started with medical marijuana, and it is a valid treatment. It really has helped so many people. It treats, it treats pain, it treats seizures, and it's a valid medical treatment. So that might be a good place to start. Fortunately, we do have the ability to learn from the other states who have already implemented it and implemented recreational marijuana as well. And I would, I guess I'm not convinced that it is a gateway drug in the classic sense. I haven't seen that information. Colorado just last year made $423 million in marijuana tax revenue, and a lot of this is being channeled into the states. Oh, sorry. But of course there are challenges to deal with. I mean, there are problems with it, so, and we can learn from other states.
Thank you to everyone for your questions tonight. We will now allow the candidates. We will now allow the candidates to make a 1-minute closing statement, and we will begin with Mr. Jones.
Well, thank you for putting this on. It's great to be in Salina. Some of the best Italian food in the state. And being in the arts, Stiefel Theater is a place I've gone several times, as well as the Art Academy right around the corner in that area. So I'm a strong supporter of public education. In Western Kansas, in my district that is primarily rural, we have to have a quality public education system. And there's a push to do away with it. And I strongly support it. It has to be quality. We are the first board that is conditionally accrediting school districts for not doing that or not having plans to address it. We have conditionally accredited 3 public school districts in the state of Kansas, and this year, as a preview for next week, we're about to get some big ones next week that'll come out. So we are holding school districts accountable for their successes. We expect greatness, and we are working toward that. And I would appreciate your vote on August 2nd.
Ms. Kincannon.
Thank you. Well, I'm trying to look at my notes here to see if there's anything I missed. I've been endorsed by the Kansas Farm Bureau and Kansans for Life. I wanted to follow up on the education funding. I believe we need to fully fund schools. We are ratcheting up to the point, but we also need to fully fund special ed, and we are not at this time. I wanted to mention that some of those numbers I said about housing. So we, before I knew Salina would be in my district, we put into the budget $5 million to help with a housing project that's going in. Great Plains is cooperating with that, and it's going in on Crawford Street, and that will be in my district. And so I was pretty excited when I found out that that area was going to. So I helped when it came to the omnibus that we upped that another $20 million. So we've got $25 million coming to Salina. Oh my gosh, my time is up. And I didn't even get to the other 3 or 4, but we'll talk later.
Thank you. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I work in the field of death and dying and after-death care. And one of the most important skills that I have learned working with people who are dying and with their families is the art of listening. So people from all walks of life die. And I've worked with all of them. Republicans, Democrats, Christians, atheists, everyone. And none of that matters at end of life. I've learned how to listen to what makes people's lives meaningful, about what concerns them most, and what really matters. And I think that I will bring that unique and compassionate skill of listening to the job if I am given the privilege of representing the 69th district.
And Ms. Salina.
I also want to thank you guys for letting me feel like I'm finally getting heard. My friends are getting heard because I'm speaking for them I'm not saying I'm like talking for them, but it does feel like I finally get a chance to say what we want. And we want more control, we want control of our body when it's about the abortion rights and having control, you know, of what we discuss with our doctors should be between us, and that is our right. Same thing, I feel like the legalizing marijuana would help in a lot of ways, instead of, I feel like keeping it illegal destroys the community itself. You're punishing people who might need it, it could go into financing a lot of things, it can help farms, creating more jobs out there for them for that. There's a lot of things I just can't think of, sorry. I know, it's a wonderful lie. That's what I get for wearing perfume, 'cause I like fruity stuff. Shit, I lost my place, but there's a lot to it, and I want to talk about, I remember I didn't really get a chance, but I also want to talk about homeless. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, thank you again to everyone who was a part of our primary candidates forum. You can watch the recording again on Smoky Hills PBS Facebook page, the League of Women Voters Salina, Kansas Facebook page, youtube.com/Salina Media Connection, and the website lwbsalina.org. We remind you again that not only are these candidates on the ballot on August 2nd, but the constitutional amendment concerning abortion is also on the August 2nd ballot. Every registered voter in Kansas, whether a member of any party or no party, is eligible to vote on that issue. July 12th is the final day to register for that election. You can register to vote at ksvotes.org. We urge every eligible voter to register by July 12th and every registered voter to vote either in advance or on August 2nd. Thank you, everyone, and good night.